On est... Yeah, that's it. Bonjour tout le monde, bienvenue à l'édition 16 bits du Hackfest. J'espère que tout le monde va bien. Je me présente, Nicolas, ça va être moi qui va être ici sur la track 1 l'ensemble des 2 journées. Je vais être lui qui présente les speakers et qui boit de l'alcool en avant. Bref, si vous avez des questions ou quoi que ce soit, n'hésitez pas à me voir, moi ou un membre du crew. On vous invite aussi à venir voir la vitrine Startup au local 2000A. Donc, allez jaser là-bas, il y a du stock cool. Puis, on est prêt à commencer. Donc, Daniel, you're up.
All right, what's up, Hackfest? I'm glad to be here, and thank you for coming. All right, so we are here today to talk about something very near and dear to me, which is bulletin board services, the BBS, also known as bulletin board systems. So I'm going to go ahead and introduce myself. My name is Daniel Kelly. In the BBS world, I go by the name aNACHRONiST. I'm the sysop of Absinthe BBS on the Amiga, as well as a text mode artist in several groups. I design and program utilities and games for the BBS community. I love the BBS world, and I'm here to share some of what I've learned throughout my years of being immersed in the culture. It's my hope that some of those listening to it will look into BBSing and come to enjoy it as much as I have. This presentation will be a light on slides because we have a lot to get through. So we'll start off with, what is a bulletin board system? That's Stackfault, Dave's BBS right there, Bottomless Abyss. So bulletin board systems, also known as bulletin board services, they're the precursors to our current online paradigm. They're the original home of the hacking community. For computer enthusiasts of the 80s and 90s, BBSs were the de facto method of communicating and sharing data electronically. With the rise of centralized online services such as AOL, CompuServe, and Prodigy, bulletin board services swiftly began disappearing as users abandoned them in droves. Everyone started getting those annoying CDs in the mail. Do you remember those? I do. They were terrible. So this exodus accelerated as broadband and modern ISPs became ubiquitous. The text-based interface, smaller user base, and relatively glacial speeds of BBSs, they simply could not compete with the new technology in the eyes of the masses. However, BBSs did not die out completely. For example, right now in Taiwan, there's a massive BBS known as PTT. It has over 1 million users and often has over 100,000 users online. This is due in large part to the anonymous nature of the platform, which has caused it to become a bastion of free speech and open communication in a part of the world that really needs it. Now, if you can read Chinese, feel free to check it out. Of course, PTT is quite an exception to the general state of BBSing. This presentation is focused on the style of BBSing found in the Americas and Europe. Here, we do not have millions of users. I doubt we have 100,000 users between all of us. However, we are experiencing a resurgence of interest as individuals become disillusioned with the current state of online interaction or simply seek a different experience. Social media sucks. The internet's terrible. No one is enjoying themselves. No one is enjoying scrolling on their phones, getting more and more depressed. No one likes it. And a lot of people are looking for something different. And some of those who were around in the 80s and 90s who remember BBSs remember that there was something different. So the BBS is a unique platform for electronic communication. Like I said, it's a precursor to the online paradigm, and originally, at its most basic form when it first came out, it's exactly as the name implies. Bulletin board system, a virtual bulletin board where users can post messages for others to read. When it came out in the late 70s, that was pretty revolutionary. Ideally, you would get a response. Over time, it quickly evolved into what we see today. BBSs offer, in some form, the majority of services that we've come to expect from an online platform. Message boards, personal mail, the exchange of files, gaming, and applications. So let's talk about the unique characteristics of the BBS. To go online today, one generally needs to connect to an ISP, an internet service provider, to gain access to the World Wide Web and its collection of websites. There, you can search for information on sites such as Google, Yahoo, Bing, etc., where you're shown results that are filtered and ordered by the owners of the search engine. Unless you're using something like Tor, those companies decide what you find. It's kind of like going to a library and saying, "Excuse me, is this a library?" "Yes, sir, it is." "I want to go ahead and look up this information. I want to go in there and take a look and see what are in the books." "No, sir, we're going to go back here and we'll decide what book we bring out." "Are you sure? Can I go back there?" "Absolutely not, sir." That's pretty much what we're dealing with right now. So BBSs are different. BBSs are decentralized. You connect directly to a given board via a terminal. These boards are usually hosted on a single computer, generally in someone's home. Boards are run by the system operator, or sysop. He's sometimes assisted by a team underneath him, co-sysops, subops. The sysop controls everything about that board. One can think of BBSs as fiefdoms and sysops as lord of their domain. He controls everything, including organization and moderation of the message boards. He controls the file selection, the presentation, everything. He's the first and last word on anything involving his board. It's his virtual home, and the callers are his guests. Other than being governed by the laws of his country, if he chooses to follow them, he answers to no one and is free to do as he pleases. This quality, above all others, differentiates one board from the next. Your overall experience on one board can vary drastically from one to the next. Boards are almost exclusively text-based. There are no videos, no pop-ups, no audio clips playing. There are no pixel graphics or traditional window user interfaces. This text-only environment is what truly gave rise to text mode art. Clever sysops and callers can manipulate ASCII characters to construct images and interfaces. Unique character sets, such as IBM's Code Page 437, Commodore's PETSCII, and others, feature special characters specifically for this purpose. Other character sets, such as Topaz on the Commodore Amiga, have qualities that could be leveraged to create their own unique brand of text art. The ANSI standard for terminal control sequences became ubiquitous early on. It enables 16 colors, 8 colors, and 8 brighter versions of said colors, as well as advanced cursor manipulation and even animation. BBSs are not just tools for communication or work, they are often embodiments of a specific and unique art form. So here we have, there we are. To give you an idea of what text mode art looks like for its own sake, here's a legacy piece, a legacy crew piece drawn by my friend, the legendary Smooth, who's been an artist forever, in IBM's Code Page 437 on the left, as well as one drawn by myself in Commodore's Topaz font. He and I drew this year's Hackfest logos. That is all text. We literally type it out. No layers, no Photoshop, nothing. Those are all text characters. So let's talk about BBS culture. As I juggle a ton of windows. Here we are. So the BBS world, in some ways, is an era frozen in time. Many boards still feature programs, games, and art from creators and groups that existed decades ago. You'll still find work from guys in the 90s with the same interests that we have. Some of the sysops that are around today have been running boards since the 80s and 90s. Relationships between some groups and individuals have a long, long history. Time moves slowly in the BBS world, and we like it that way. The BBS community is a very, very small one. It's a lot like a small town where everyone knows each other. I mean, everybody. And with any small community, if you want to get involved, it's worthwhile to know something of its culture before visiting or joining. So we'll talk about some of the qualities of BBS culture. The BBS world is largely non-political. If you run into the BBS world, stridently proclaiming your politics, your religion, your ideology, the way that everyone does on social media, it's not going to be appreciated, even by those who might otherwise share your views. Again, a BBS is like a man's home. You don't walk in and bring contention into a person's home. And now that home in the BBS world is part of a small neighborhood, and word of your behavior will travel quickly. They'll say, "Oh, do not let that guy into your board. He's really annoying." Everyone's going to know. Now, of course, there are exceptions. Once you've spent some time on a board, you will get a sense of what is and what is not acceptable, just like any small community. There are BBSs in which the sysop encourages such things, and even politically and religiously and ideologically themed boards. But the moral of the story is, read the room. You have to read the room first. When in doubt, be judicious. The BBS is a small one, filled with very different people, and we've learned to coexist over time. And we do it for the love of our hobby. If we acted the way that the people act on social media, the BBS world would have been toast a long time ago. No one would have time for it. So it's best to concentrate on the things that you may have in common rather than the things that divide you. So if you find yourself offended by something on a BBS, it's fine. If the question wasn't designed to cause offense, but rather you find offense in its premise, whatever it is, you can respectfully reach out to that individual or person or group and learn more. It may be edifying to you. Or you might say, I don't have time for that. You can, and I don't blame you, you can go to a different board. Boards vary so much. They're like a bunch of little islands where one could be very different from another. So if you have a bad experience on one board, you will be able to find one that you might find to be a better match. That is part of the beauty of the decentralized nature of the medium. If you find yourself in disagreement with someone in the BBS world, above all, stay civil. In general, your civility will be remembered more than the point that you were arguing. No one's going to remember what you're arguing about. They'll just remember if you were a jerk or not. Now, I have not been perfect about that, and guys in the BBS world know that's on record. However, such instances have only served to convince me that civility is the best policy. The second feature of BBS culture, the BBS world is competitive, which here being at a hacker convention, I'm sure you guys get. BBSs used to be the distribution arm of the demo scene and the pirate wares scene. In those scenes, individuals and groups compete in making the fastest zero-day release of the most impressive demo production or software release. That spirit of competition is still alive in the BBS world. Programmers, also called modders, compete to release new features before anybody else does. They may compete to release an already existing feature in a better or more attractive UI, or something completely new. Text mode groups compete to release the most impressive packs of artwork. Being a now obscure platform with a small pool of BBS callers in the world, BBSs or boards compete for the callers themselves. This competition is often the cause of drama in the BBS world. As someone is accused of ripping off someone else's art or idea, etc., egos can clash. However, this same competitive streak is a big part of what has kept innovation and creativity alive in our scene. It's the same spirit that enables us to enjoy new demos and programs for vintage computer platforms that are decades old. So, if someone comes up to you, you want to be aware of this. If someone comes up to you in the BBS world and discusses his plans to create something, keep his confidence until he announces it himself. Also, don't disparage the work of a creator or group, as that is a way to quickly gain enemies. Everybody knows each other. The BBS world is filled with intelligent, creative people, many of whom have been around for a long time. So everyone knows, or maybe the guy who's always been the smartest guy in the room. He's always been the smartest guy in the room, always been the smartest guy in class. And he's gone through life secure in the knowledge that he knows more or is more capable than the people around him. That attitude often leads to a big ego in an unpleasant manner. The BBS world is filled with programmers, artists, writers, and technical experts of all sorts. Due to the laid-back manner of communication on the medium, which I really love, someone's capabilities may not be immediately apparent. So it's best to assume that the people around you in this space are quite capable until proven otherwise. You'll be shocked at who you might be speaking with. I've met famous game designers, world-touring musicians. Shout out to MBR. It'll be an awesome concert tomorrow night. I've met founders of tech companies in the BBS world. They usually don't advertise it. They just say, hey, what's up, man, and you're chatting. And that person may very well be brilliant. Another aspect of BBS culture is the BBS world respects work, not words. So every day, I mean every day. We have a new user who comes in from, the rest of the internet. He looks around. He's like, man, this stuff is old. I could fix all of this. He has so many ideas about what can be improved without really understanding the reason why some things are the way they are. So many things seem primitive to him. Well, he's going to change it all. He is going to change it all. Not only is this new guy going to build new features, it's going to be easy to him. It's going to be no sweat. So he talks about what he's going to do, and then all of a sudden, in a year or a month, where is he? What happened to BBS Moses, who was going to lead us to the promised land? No one knows. No one knows where this guy is. He's gone. And then another guy comes in doing the exact same thing. So after years and years and decades of us seeing guys like that, no one is going to be impressed with what you say that you can do. No one's going to care about the long list of programming languages that you might know, the systems with which you worked, or esoteric technological jargon that you spout. We only care about work. If you show that you can contribute to the community in some way, you're going to have respect. You are going to have respect if you actually show that you care enough to put in work. The BBS world is mostly non-commercial. Back in the 80s and 90s, there were paid boards. You could go onto a board and you could pay for things like more time, more download credits, more calls per day. Those days are long gone, y'all. They are long gone. You are not going to make any money in the BBS world. You're going to make none. I don't make any money. You're not going to make any money in the BBS world. So if you're going to come to the BBS world thinking that you're going to commercialize it somehow, you're not going to. In fact, you're much more likely to lose money due to the value of time itself. While it's possible to occasionally get paid for things, if you have outstanding text mode art that you get commissioned for, or theme merchandise, you might make a little money there, but you're not going to get rich off of it. But, like they say, man does not live by bread alone. If you come for the love of the community, the love of the medium, then your life may be enriched in many different ways. I know that it's enriched my life. So here in modern times, we have so many options. Why would we call a BBS now in 2024, 2025, etc.? So we'll talk about that a bit. A BBS is more than the sum of its parts. Look at that sexy board. That's my board. It's Absinthe. All of y'all are going to call it after this. So a BBS is more than the sum of its parts. A well-crafted BBS is a singular experience. A capable sysop will create his board with a unique theme and artwork. It will offer curated files and themed message boards that appeal to particular interests. Some will have unique user interfaces and content. A good BBS, it evokes a feeling or a vibe that's unique to it. It's hard to describe unless you've been and felt it. It's a microcosm that you won't find anywhere else. The point that's hardest to communicate, unless you log on, is that good boards have a je ne sais quoi that will make you want to return. Again, this goes for well-crafted boards. If you land on the wrong board, it's terrible. It's absolutely depressing if you're on a bad board, and there are so many of them. So come to the good boards. Stack Fault's board is great. My board is great. There are some good ones out there. Goes to our next point, BBSing, the experience is relaxing. It's relaxing to be on a BBS. In recent years, the BBS world has seen an influx of callers who are disillusioned with the state of modern online interaction. They find that social media and search engine algorithms are amplifying the divisions in society. The constant barrage, once you go online, of online ads and pop-ups and messaging, it feels oppressing. I don't enjoy it. I'm sure a lot of you don't enjoy it either. On smartphones, you can sit there and just doom scroll all day long till you have a heart attack. Random trolls and assorted ideological pundits belittle, insult, and dehumanize others. The behavior online is just deplorable, honestly. So for many of us, our current online experience is overall an unpleasant one. So when I first started my journey into the scene, an older sysop who gave me a lot of advice once said that the modern internet is like walking into a raging party where everyone is yelling and screaming and vying for your attention. But going onto a BBS is like being invited to a man's living room. That is much, much different. I've repeated this theme throughout the presentation, and it's core to understanding BBSing. Thanks in part to the text-based format and in part to the culture, much of the noise of online communication is absent. It's filtered out. It's not there. You can take your time, you can relax, have a coffee, some whiskey, and read a message. You can thoughtfully think about your response, compose it. You can enjoy a game, or as we call them doors, without in-app purchases. No spam IMs. You play it when you're ready, you're done with it, you can move on. You can read news from various outlets when you choose, as opposed to having that news forced on you. As Marco Pierre White says, the chef, it's your choice. The user base of a board is a small community within a small community. As you frequent certain boards, you will inevitably get to know the other members of that community. You may have conversations on a level that you rarely see on the web. Before you know it, visiting your favorite boards it's going to be like going to a house that's filled with your friends. You know everyone, you can sit down, you can relax. When you're ready, you can leave, and you'll see them next time. It's not like that in the rest of the internet. BBSing is creative. Limitations breed creativity. Over the years, talented individuals have accomplished a great deal with very limited technology. In the same way that one can appreciate a demo or a game that accomplishes something it should not be able to, say on a retro platform or with very limited RAM, you can appreciate what's been created on bulletin board services as well, what's gone into crafting the BBS experience. If you decide to become a sysop, your board will be a bit like a custom car that you constantly work on. You'll improve it, you'll appreciate it, and it's going to come to mean a lot to you. For me, becoming a sysop drove me to learn programming. I was not a programmer before becoming a sysop. My father, who's a programmer, he taught me a little bit, but I was a teenager. I was just trying to party. I wasn't trying to sit in a cubicle all day. But when I got older and fell in love with the BBS experience, that's when I started to learn programming. Text mode art awakened my artistic talent. I didn't even know I had it. I had no idea I had any artistic talent whatsoever. My mother is an artist. That's what she does for a living. I thought it skipped right over me. It turns out that the entire time I didn't need a paintbrush. I needed a keyboard. Who would have known? I found that in the BBS world. And it's like that for a lot of people. So for both creators and those who simply appreciate the work, creativity is on full display in the BBS world. The community itself is fantastic. If I didn't like the community, I wouldn't be in it. Due to the obscure nature of the medium and the technological barrier to entry, the BBS world has a high concentration of interesting and intelligent people. Due to the nature of the culture, those people also tend to be polite. They tend to be easygoing. With the differences between each board, it's easy to find a home that reflects your own interests without having to be tribal. You can form real friendships here with people all over the world. It led me to being here today and to meeting all of you. Very important point of BBS cultures, free speech reigns in the BBS world. BBS callers come from all backgrounds. They come from all countries, all persuasions. If there are topics, opinions, or questions that you are not comfortable expressing on the web for whatever reason, you can find a place to do so in the BBS world. You can politely express yourself without your activity being monitored, being logged, being flagged by your ISP, by your government, or who knows who else. You can download and share information and books that may be difficult to find elsewhere without drawing undesirable attention. The buck stops at the sysop. He determines what is and what is not appropriate for his board. Now, that's not to say go forth and be nefarious, okay? It's rather to reflect that a free mind is only truly useful in a free environment, which is something that a BBS can provide. As governments, social media platforms, and corporations continue to expand the list of unacceptable views and ideas and even punishing people for communicating such, the need for alternative platforms such as bulletin board systems grows. So let's talk about the road ahead for BBSing. What might the future bring? There we go. So it's hard to say exactly what the future is going to look like for BBSing, but I'm going to take my best shot at it. Most of the notable figures in the BBS world right now are at least age 40 or older. Just this year, a legendary sysop by the handle of Hawk Hubbard tragically passed away from cancer. He was a friend to a lot of us. He was a central figure in the BBS world, and his loss is deeply felt. As our community ages, we're in danger of our culture and our way of online life disappearing. Is it inevitable that BBSs are going to disappear, that we're going to disappear along with them? What would the future look like, possibly, for BBSing in 2030, 2040, 2100? Well, BBS technology is advancing. While many BBSs, including mine, run on retro hardware and software, there's an increasing selection of modern BBS systems and software that are available for modern hardware. The two most popular, Mystic and Synchronet, maintained by Guru and Digital Man, respectively, are fast, they're stable, and they have a rich community of modders, tons of people who are constantly adding functionality. The new kid on the block, Enigma 1/2, maintained by New Schooler, is also fantastic and has some very forward-thinking features. BBS software is available that can handle modern traffic. We have protocol support for pixel graphics, wide format, true color terminals, and more. Modern APIs are easily accessible by BBSs to parse modern and relevant data. Innovation is happening, and there's a lot of room to explore possibilities. UTF fonts, instead of those with fixed width and single byte characters, are seeing increased adoption, albeit slowly. More boards are offering FTP and HTTPS download options for their entire file base. Mobile terminal apps are steadily improving. BBSs often run websites that feature a built-in terminal that will call the board. Encrypted connections instead of wide-open telnet are being offered by more and more boards. The BBS community has realized that we do need to advance, and we're doing so cautiously on many fronts. So the future, as many of us believe, is decentralized, and I just mean in general. Right now, the level of technology that is available for private users is becoming exponentially more advanced. Blockchain technology and Web 3.0 has the potential to eliminate our current reliance on ISPs and corporately owned cloud storage. The infrastructure of the modern online paradigm is looking increasingly outdated and cumbersome. BBSs are a natural fit for the regime change that may be coming. BBSs are very well positioned to be stored and executed on-chain and delivered via Web 3.0. Sysops can offer other services also on-chain that complement the theme and purpose of their board. The independent nature of BBSing is a perfect match for the independent nature of blockchain technology and the next iteration of the internet. The world needs BBS culture because the alternative is not working. The BBS world provides a proven model that it enables a diverse group of people to coexist online peaceably without censorship. It provides a community that encourages people to be polite, to be creative, and to be driven. These are not qualities that become outdated. These are eternal qualities. As we introduce more and more people to our way of electronic life, I hope that we'll attract a new generation that will bring that spirit into the future. We're already seeing this now as we have an influx from young members of the retro computing, gaming, and hacking community calling up boards. You have Nix users. Nix users, you guys already live on the command line. You already live on the command line, and so you'll find that BBSing is a natural fit for you. You'll feel very comfortable. Most importantly, people have to be made aware that there is an alternative available to an online experience that many find to be unpleasant. So, as the BBS world continues to expand and grow and advance, there are some things that we need to be cautious about. I believe that it's important that we don't repeat the mistakes of the past and that we don't forget the unique qualities that set us apart. BBSs right now, we can already display pixel images with a protocol known as Sixel. It's been possible for decades with a protocol known as RIP or RIP to play audio in a fashion. I've even coded the ability for my Amiga BBS to serve files via HTTP instead of old Z modem protocols. The issue is many sysops are in a rush to use any new feature. They're in a rush to grab it. They want to use it. They're excited about it. They want to use new capabilities, but they are not focused on the fundamentals of crafting and running an excellent board. If we start piling on the options to display, if all of a sudden BBS has started wanting to pile on high-definition graphics, streaming audio, integrating advanced mouse control, at what point are we just Netscape? At what point are we just an old internet browser when we add these things? Offering what is essentially an inferior web browser is not a unique value proposition and is not a way forward for BBSing to thrive. So in some ways, a good BBS is a cult of personality. The sysop engages in his message boards. He posts files. He plays games. He chats with his user base. If a BBS started running automatically on autopilot, say on the blockchain, instead of from a computer in his home, there's a serious risk of the BBS sysop being disconnected from his own user base, being disconnected from the day-to-day life of his callers. There's already right now an epidemic of uninvolved sysops who have a board running online constantly just so he can say, I've got a BBS running. There's no point in that whatsoever. So if a new model of BBSing does emerge with new technology and it starts entering the mainstream again, PTT in Taiwan shows that it's still possible. It will have a giant influx of mainstream internet users. Those users could bring the bad habits and toxic behavior of the current web with them. Would our BBS culture become overrun, diluted, and eventually cease to be with all these modern internet users coming in? One can already see this with some what are called one-liner BBS walls. Those are programs that enable callers to post a single comment on a displayed list. Everyone can see it. Some BBSes, some boards, have already opened it to the World Wide Web. And every time you see a rude or idiotic or just distasteful comment, it always says www right beside it. So it's a valid concern. But in the end, I believe that the sysop and his staff controls and is responsible for what's allowed on his board. Yes, they'll have to put in some extra work. More importantly, when it comes to callers, the BBS world, our cup doth not runneth over. Okay, we don't have a lot of them. So online, unless BBSs adapt and evolve, we could disappear in one generation. I could be the last person that ever talks to you about BBSing unless we adapt and evolve. So we need new callers and new sysops. We need those people coming in from the rest of the internet. We can't just close and shut our doors. We'll need to make our boards more accessible to the layperson while actively moderating to maintain the culture. So it's going to be a balance. So in summary, as we advance with technology, implement changes to maintain relevancy, and continue to lower the barriers to entry, which are all necessary steps in my opinion, it's important to remember those old words. For what shall it profit a man if he shall gain the whole world and lose his very soul? We must advance responsibly. I believe that if we can find a balance between keeping pace with emerging technology and maintaining those qualities that makes BBSing special, I think the future of BBSing will be very bright indeed. And I hope you'll be there with us. So how do you get involved? How can you check this world out? It's easy. It is so easy to connect to a BBS now. Now, back in the day, 80s, 90s, early 2000s, boards were only accessible by analog modems over telephone lines. And that was how it was in the past. Nowadays, one can connect easily via Telnet or SSH. The first step is to get a BBS-capable terminal, BBS-capable terminal software. Popular general use terminals that everyone's familiar with, such as PuTTY or just your raw shell terminal that comes with your OS, those do not support the correct fonts nor sequences to interact with a BBS as intended. The graphics will look terrible. You're going to have bugs. Don't do it. I would recommend SyncTerm or Netrunner, which are available for PC and Linux. If you're on a retro platform, such as the Amiga, as you should be, there are a ton available. On Amiga, for example, I would recommend Term 4.8. Um, you may need to get an accelerator for your Amiga, but they're dirt cheap now, guys. Everyone should have an accelerated Amiga. I would recommend hiding or disabling what's called the status line. It's a little line on the bottom of your terminal that shows you information like the time, as if you don't have a clock. Um, that's useless. Get rid of it. You want to disable it because it eats up valuable screen real estate, and on some boards, it can cause display issues. So, what terminal dimension do you want? You want 80 by 25 is ideal. You can get by with 80 by 24. 80 by 25 is ideal. You're going to want to assign folders for your uploads and downloads. You don't want to mix your files with your BBS files. So go ahead, assign some files for your upload and download folders, assign it in your terminal. Lastly, you're going to need some boards to call. I would recommend a site called the Telnet BBS Guide at telnetbbsguide.com. And by the way, at the end of this presentation, we're going to have all the links displayed, so don't worry about memorizing them now. But the Telnet BBS Guide has an outstanding directory of BBSs to call. It is fantastic. The maintainer works very hard. My board, Absinthe BBS, is part of a group of boards known as aNACHRONiST. aNACHRONiST is a group comprised almost exclusively of boards that stand apart from the rest due to their quality. So visit an aNACHRONiST board. Most likely, you're going to be on an excellent BBS. Now, again, if you call a board and you don't enjoy the experience, don't write all of them off based on that. Don't do that. Call a number of them. Call a number of them to get a good idea of what the experience is like. The difference in experience from one BBS to the next can be drastic. Also, take your time. The BBS world is laid back. Look around the board. Check out some of the files. Send a message to the sysop. Post an introduction on the message boards or politely join an ongoing conversation. Take time over several calls to truly get a feel for the board. If you're a programmer, and I imagine a whole lot of you out here are, or an aspiring programmer, you'll find that the BBS world is like a giant playground. Since it's all text-based, you can focus on functionality and the usage of a program instead of also juggling advanced graphics, sound, and GUI libraries. You can quickly learn to improve your text-based user interface design skill. You can code for the joy of coding, and you'll find that the community is very appreciative of your work. As promised, here are some links. Wow, time just flew by, didn't it? Look at that. Time flies when you're having fun. I love the BBS world. So I hope that you've all enjoyed this talk, that it has you interested to learn more and to check it out for yourself. I highly recommend viewing the outstanding Back to the BBS documentary, which is on YouTube. If you're interested in starting your own board, you can listen to episode 1 of Text Mode Underground, which is also available on YouTube. That is hosted by myself and my friend Smooth. Again, to jump right in, set up sync term. Step 1, set up sync term or Netrunner. 2, find some BBSs on Telnet BBS Guide or Absinthe. 3, go ahead and start calling in. You will be welcomed, and I hope that you come to love the BBS experience as much as I have. It looks like we have a couple minutes. I'd love to take some questions if anybody has any. You. Yes, that's exactly how it was. Yeah, so you would pick up a local copy of your, like sometimes Compute Magazine or Amiga magazines. There are local newsletters. I mean, people found stuff out in the 80s. Information did get around, but it was mostly via the printed word. You would have local meetups. It was very common for BBSs to have local meetups in their town. People would actually know each other in person that were on those boards. They'd get together, they'd exchange information, they'd exchange links and say, hey, give this board a call. It's really cool. Another reason you would do that is because you got charged long distance fees for calling. I know my parents were shocked when I found out about BBSs. They were like, son, what is this? I was like, oh, man. So does that answer your question, sir? Okay, wonderful. I think there was somebody over here. You, sir. Legal responsibility. Okay, sure. Well, I mean, if you injure yourself on a BBS, that's you. Um, as far as you will have legal responsibility for things like some of the files that you host. So if you're in there and you're trying to be the world's biggest pirate, don't be surprised if you get the world's biggest conviction. Um, there are boards that are doing that. They're kind of skating by due to the obscure nature of the medium, but I can't imagine they'll skate by forever. So you're going to have the same legal responsibilities that you're going to have anywhere else. So you do, when you host a board, you don't want to be stupid about it. You want to be responsible about it. Does that answer your question, sir? I sense only kind of. Sure, sure. So, are you responsible? What share of the responsibility does the sysop have for user content and user uploads? That's what you're saying? Okay, wonderful. Yeah, so if those uploads are in turn available to download for the general public, then yeah, he would be responsible. That's why I go through every single one of my uploads. I spend a lot of time on BBS. So the first step, when people want to upload files to your board, they go to a specific upload section. Until it's been validated and verified by me, it is not available for people to download. So that keeps me from getting in trouble. Also, I'm not big on piracy, so I get that stuff out of there anyway. I don't want any porn on my board. You guys have the whole internet for that. Come on. I'm, I'm not wasting my Amiga's hard drive on your porn. Get out of here. So yes, as long as the sysop is intelligent about it and monitors and validates the user content, he'll be fine. It is, and it's not paying me anything. So I love this. But I enjoy it. Honestly, I'm just happy that people are excited enough to upload files. You know, I have time for one more question. Going once, going twice. All right. Well, thank you so much for coming and seeing my talk. I really appreciate it. I hope to see some of you in the online BBS world. Take care. Thank you again.